I'm sure many folks in the audience are aware of your establishment, the institution, Darryl's Corner Bar and Kitchen in the Roxbury, and also the Underground Cafe and Lounge, right? Which is really interesting. But before we jump into the new one, Grace by Nia in the Seaport, I want to know what made you want to get into being, what made you get into restaurants? Why did you want to be a restaurateur? Were you looking for something easy?
Right? Well, I didn't desire sleep. That was one of the things, right? No, I got into restaurants, I would say, when I was 16, and I started working at the Purple Cactus in Jamaica Plain. And I was a cashier as well as a cold line cook, and I was making smoothies and pouring the beverages and stuff. And I really enjoyed, or found out that I had a knack for engaging people. And what I was sharing with Darryl in the back was that I'm really shy. Terribly shy. And I really like to stay kind of in the background. And so what I think I found myself doing professionally was taking jobs that forced me to talk to people and engage and like use that skill set that I would shy away from. And so I did that.
This is a training ground for you right now.
It absolutely is, right? And so I got started there, and I kind of loved it. And I went to college, and I studied African American studies and criminology. Thought I was going to become an attorney and advocate for youth here back in Boston. And I still did that, but I did it in a different way. And I kind of found myself coming back to this industry. So 20 years later, I came back to it in the form of a consultant at Darryl's Corner Bar and Kitchen. And it was really, I think a lot of things moved me. And again, something that we talked about backstage was I spent 10 years in nonprofit management. And the nonprofit management that I did, part of it was fundraising for human services. And the other part was giving a voice essentially to the voiceless in our community. And so I love that work, but something drew me back to restaurants. And so when I got back to Darryl's, or when I got to Darryl's, it was, hey, just like you said, this is an institution. It's been around since 1957 when it was called Bob the Chef's. Yet here we are in 2015, and I didn't know about it for real, right? And so I talked about it a little bit, and I found out that my parents would go there. And shame on them, because I feel like they were going there and leaving me at home. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then my brother told me that he would go there, and I was like, you too, right? So I felt a little betrayal, but after the betrayal, I felt that I wanted,
payback.
I had to work through some things first, right? But after that, I was like, but why don't more people know about this institution?
Yeah.
It's been here since 1957. It's had more than its fair share of history, and particularly Black history in the city of Boston. And I said, well, let me look at my corporate talents and my history of work in my different industries and try to apply it here. And that was my first love and interest. So I didn't come back to Darryl's as a restaurant manager or even a server or anything else. I came there to promote it and to market it and to really expose it to more of of Massachusetts and beyond. And then from that point, they understood that I had a restaurant background and said, well, would you also manage? Because we need managers as well. And I said, well, of course. I actually talked to my husband. He's in the room right now, Val. I said, can I do that? Can I manage this business, more than just the marketing portion of it? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, well, I'll try it. But it took a lot. You know what I mean? It was something that was totally like flipped on its head from what I had been used to doing from the last 10 years, which is you got used to 8 to 4, 9 to 5 kind of lifestyle. And now I'm going in at 4 and getting out at 4. And I had to kind of get used to that.
Yeah. Well, so what I'm hearing is, like I mentioned before, you worked for a nonprofit in the fundraising department. So you got some skills in getting some money.
Absolutely.
Tell me, how has that experience helped you turn Darryl's into the success that it is? And how are you continuing that with Grace by Nia?
Well, I will say that, one, I think that whatever your belief is, and for me, I believe in God, but whatever that higher power or spirit that drives you, always has a plan, right? And so for me, when I was still in college, I remember writing to Russell Simmons, the owner of Def Jam and other things in between. And I remember writing to him and saying, hey, like, I really think you need to come down to my university and speak to my student body. And let's talk a little bit more about, you know, the AIDS epidemic that's happening right now and how do we address it. And I just wrote this letter and said, hey, listen, I don't even know if we got any money for you, but I want you to come, right? And I remember months later getting a phone call in the student activities office, and they're like, yeah, Russell's Simmons' office is on the phone for you. And I was like, who? You know what I mean? Like, this was like a big deal. I was 20 years old, and I was like, who calling for me? And I got on the phone, and a gentleman named Greg, he was like, yeah, Russell got your letter. And he's coming for free. And he's coming because he believes in everything that you wrote and you said, right? He like whatever the mission is that you're talking about, he believes in that wholeheartedly. So he showed up, and I connect that to my story now about, you know, fundraising, right? And I realize that words have power. And when you are passionate about something and you believe in something and you're living something, people can actually feel that as well. And so I spent 10 years in nonprofit management, you know, really fundraising and then trying to relate to people. And the same thing I did with that marketing and said, listen, Darryl's has a piece of history. You know, we're still doing old school soul food cooking, yet there's somebody that is looking for that, wants that, and wants to be a part of that, right? Our other pieces were the intersection of friends, food, and music. And so music has been something that has united populations for decades, right? And so to me, it was like, well, how do I, if I can't get to you to the food, how do I get to you through the music, right? And so I started to try to transcribe those stories about the music piece of it. And again, the first thing is the intersection of friends. And so for me, food and music have been a general unifier where we get a chance to cross generations. We get a chance to cross race lines with something that we all enjoy, right? We all enjoy food. Who doesn't like food in this room? Right? And who doesn't like music, right? And it doesn't really matter. There's going to be a beat that at some point unifies us all. And that's when then we come back to the friends point. And so I talk about friends being first, but it's the food and music that got us there, and we didn't realize that we were all friends in that space. And so I think that that is a part of my journey on how I got here and realized that I loved it the most.
Right. So it sounds to me like you're not afraid to ask.
Not afraid to ask, not at all. Come support me, Darryl's Corner Bar and Kitchen. We're open Wednesday.
There you go.
Through Sundays.
There you go. I mean, yeah, to just write as a 20-year-old, to write a letter to somebody who was then like one of the biggest moguls in music. Yeah. You know, you just did that. I guess, were you really expecting a response?
I didn't know what I expected. I promise you, I didn't know what I expected, but I definitely was like, I'm going to do it, and I hope it works out.
And you know, what I also like is, so there's a story, I did a little research, and apparently there's a story where you had this idea for Grace by Nia, you and your partner, Ed Kane, of Big Nights, right? And you were looking for a space somewhere else in Boston. And when you entered the conversations, it was you and Ed. Everybody was like, oh, Ed from Big Nights, this is cool, awesome. And they were up for it. You went, you looked at the space, they liked everything was positive. And then when you came through with the proposal for what the space was going to be, and when they realized, like, oh, you're not just someone in the background, you're the face of this thing, people got a little funny.
See, I didn't know you was going to bring this one up, right?
I mean, I bring it up because, you know, there's something that's something to that speaks to what you're speaking to, right? Yeah. Just like this, having this belief. Yeah.
You know, I think, again, it's divinity, right? And my name is Nia, and it means purpose in Swahili. And so I always feel like, you know, my purpose is going to reign where it is at this point. Like, I've done a lot at this where I'm like, well, everything that is for me is going to be for me, right? And anything that is not for me is going to find its way out, but I'm going to learn a lesson from it.
Amen.
And so for that particular instance, yes, you're right. We were interested in taking the concept and the foundation of what Darryl's Corner Bar and Kitchen presents and taking it to another level. And we were thinking of, well, where do we go, right? And we, if you're in marketing and business, you're talking about, well, location, location, location. And we wanted to find the best location. And we thought we had found, and we in fact did find one of the best locations, or at least we thought at that time. It was at the intersection of Faneuil Hall, North End, the Rose Kennedy Greenway. We were like, oh, this is it. Like, we're going to get so many customers from all different walks of life. And we were super excited about it. It was in the middle of the pandemic that we were still even daring to look for space. So it had a significant outdoor balcony area. And we're like, oh man, this is going to be great, especially for the customers who still want to be outside, and how we'll activate the space. And yes, we were the first ones in the door. And what I mean by that is the space had not been marketed to the public yet. A realtor had been assigned, but no one was actually actively showing this space yet. And so we were literally the first ones in the door with our hard hats on. And we were happy to be there. I got videos still from it. And we're looking through the space, and we're like, and we brought our construction manager, and he's already drafting out stuff. And we're like, this is it. Like, we're here. Like, we are in the door. And my partner, Ed Kane, he said, look, once you got your foot in there, we're wedged in. Like, we just going to keep moving. Like, this is us. This is for us. And then we sent them the deck of what the concept would be. And it was based on the same thing, friends, food, and music. We're talking about a soul-inspired cuisine or a Southern-inspired cuisine. We're talking about music that is rooted in jazz and blues and rhythm and blues, right? And Nia Grace is the forefront of it, though. And then that's when things change. You were absolutely correct.
Yeah. So you went from there. You said, all right, you didn't let that stop you.
Yeah.
Right? You got a spot at the Seaport.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. So we went from a space that was like in the end, we looked at it, and it was probably like a Tonka truck. People familiar with Tonka trucks? Am I aging myself? Right. So it was like a Tonka truck, and then we went to like the big Hummer, you know what I mean? And so we went from 2,500 square feet of space to 7,500 square feet of operating space.
The former movie theater.
Former movie theater next to us, absolutely, on Seaport Boulevard. And what I call that is my true full circle moment.
Yeah.
And so to say a little bit more about, for me, I feel like increments is how we grow. And sometimes we think we're just growing by ones or we're growing by twos. And I thought that I had to hit every single notch in order to make this big leap. Mm-hmm. And so I was afraid, and I have to, continue to give credit and thanks to my partner, Ed and Randy, because I thought that my next step might have been just a little bit deeper into the South End, maybe just the Back Bay, maybe close to downtown Boston. Like, I thought that that's where I needed to go to next to grow, not necessarily down to the Seaport next, right? Or even downtown Boston at that perfect intersection. And so for me, it was like, when we got that no, I talk about the power of no. For me, it says not over, right? So I make it, instead of one word, I make it an N period, an O period, and it means it's not over, right? And so to me, it's the next option. And so what's my next option? And in that instance, it was, we didn't like that answer that we got. We couldn't believe that was like the response that we got. And we was like, well, who do we know? And what can we do? And what we found was a really great friend in WS Development. And they had some challenges as well. But this space, it wasn't even on the market. Like, it wasn't marketed at all. The owners didn't even realize that they had this space. And it literally took them thinking like, oh, well, what could we do with it?
It's good to know people with money.
Man, I don't know if it's just, you know what? Money is one thing, but I would say it's definitely good to know people who are open, who are interested in learning, who are, innovative. And WS Development are responsible for at least 60% of the growth and development of the Seaport that we know right now. And I appreciate their partnership because it was more than just somebody saying, "Oh, well, we might got this space." They literally got lock and step with us and said, "Let's do it. This is what we're about to do. We're about to make history."
Well, yeah, give it up. Because, I mean, that, when I first heard about, you opening up a restaurant in the Seaport, I said, wait a minute, it's going to be like Darryl's in the Seaport? That's lit,
No.
And I just want to know, because Grace by Nia is part of this push to make the Seaport more diverse, right? Because, I mean, I'm not even from here, and the first time I went down there, I felt it. I was like, I'm not supposed to be here, But, and I did the research and I understood why and where that's coming from. But now there's this push to change that. Just talk to us about why it's important for you to be a part of that effort.
Well, I'll say we talk about divinity. For me, I'm talking about divinity, and I'm talking about full circle moments. And I used to work in the Seaport. I worked on the Seaport for 7 years, 20 years ago. And I was working on Spirit of Boston. And during that time, the building that we currently stand in and the Grace by Nia is on, it was a parking lot. I used to park there. You know what I mean? Premium parking, right? It wasn't my first parking lot that I wanted to park in, but it was one of them that I did, right? And I talk about being back there 20 years later. And so years ago, I was on the Seaport. We were on the Seaport. We were there, right? But we were in spaces that were just designed maybe not with us in mind. And so the difference is, for me, in creating Grace by Nia, it was, I want everyone to patron us. I'm super proud, and I'll say this, and I challenge any restaurateur in the city, and I know a few. I let them know that we have some of the most diverse dining rooms in the city of Boston. And I say that unabashedly, no shame, and with like all due respect to myself, right? That we have created dining rooms where all people feel welcome, whether you're a local or a visitor. And so to me, when I got back down to the Seaport, it was, and I want to do it here. You know what I mean? And so what we did was create a space that we created a space that considered all guests. We considered the entire population. We considered the city of Boston demographics, where 51% of us are people of color, right? And so we did that intentionally and thought about, well, then what does that food need to look like, and what does the space need to look like, and what are even the price points, right? It doesn't matter what the inflation is and the market is, but what do we do to make sure that everyone feels welcome here? And so beyond color lines, right, I talk about class being something that we wanted to make sure that everyone felt welcome there. And then generations, because again, I walk into a dining room and I'm celebrating an 85th birthday as well as a 5-year-old's birthday, and I feel great because that is what we're supposed to do, right? That is what our population is as we're walking through the city. And so, go ahead.
Are you hoping to attract that your presence there attracts more businesses of color?
I absolutely want that to be the case, but not only do I just hope, because hope is not really doing a whole lot for many people, but you've got to actually make intentional connections. And so I'm super excited that not only is Grace by Nia open, Borrachito is open with Gavin Mosley and his partner. It's a speakeasy. It fronts as a taco bar. It's got a great cocktail bar behind it. Orly Roberts from Zaz and Hyde Park, he is opening Zazabar, which is dope. But it's also in the ground floor of 60 Seaport, which is where Grace by Nia is. It has at least 35 seats as well as an outdoor area, and they're going to feature cocktails on the Small Bites menu. We have a barbershop in the Seaport. So again, it's even beyond just restaurants. We're just talking about businesses that are thriving there. We have the Hairport that has been there. And so we've got businesses. And I think that what I'm hoping to, less of a hope, but more so you can see it. This is actuality. Then let's get it done. I actually want people to call me, reach out to me, email me, and find out, who am I talking to? Who are my contacts? I want to put you in connection. The Bay State Banner is looking for space right now, and that's the oldest Black-owned and minority geared newspaper in the region, the entire region, and they're looking for new space. And they're like, well, what about the Seaport? And I'm like, well, why not? You know what I mean? And so for me, it's more than just a hope. It's about how do we make those tangible connections to make it happen. Yeah.
I want to switch gears and ask an audience question real quick. Despite the success of Darryl's, is it still intimidating to launch a new restaurant?
Yes. That's the short answer. Most people found out about Grace by Nia, I would say, 2 months before we opened, and we had been working on it for 2 years prior. And a part of that 2 years prior was, in fact, 5 months of me sitting here trying to figure out if that previous venue was going to let us develop there. And then it became a matter of having the conversation with the landlords. And what I talk about maybe mostly in the last few years is really being committed to understanding culture, right? Me understanding even the culture of the new Seaport, the expectations of the current residents that are there that weren't there before, and what I would need to do to be successful in their neighborhood. It's not my neighborhood. I used to work there, but it's not my neighborhood, right? So I had to understand it from that perspective. And then my landlord had to understand my culture and what we were doing back uptown in Roxbury and in the South End, and what a late night looks like for us. And yeah, we might start with our music being rooted in jazz, but we are not afraid of soul music, and we're not afraid of a little hip hop fusion, right? And I needed my landlord to be able to be okay with that as well. And so that was that. And then there was the intimidation of our particular kind of Southern and soul cuisine being something that has predominantly been served in our house, right? And then outside of being served predominantly in our houses in maybe a quick service fashion. How was I going to take this same kind of cuisine, elevate it for the space that I was going to, and again, attract customers that are like, and we love it still. And so I think that we would be naive if we said there's no fear or intimidation or anxiety in opening any kind of business. You know what I mean? Like, yes. The answer is yes. I doubled down.
Well, it's you did it 3 times, right?
Yeah.
And and you won't stop here, right? There's more.
We're not going to stop. You know, we want to do more. My goal is at least 10. So
10.
Yeah, there we are.
All in the Boston area?
No. And so that's even another layer of it, right? It's different when you're doing it in your backyard, and not for nothing. Again, I worked on the Seaport 20 years ago. So coming back to it was like, I don't know this space. What am I doing here, right? But I felt really comfortable in South End and Roxbury, and I can do more in Roxbury because I feel like that's what I know. We are talking about crossing state lines, which gives me a whole nother pocket of fear. So if you want to talk about that, it's a whole nother show.
Okay, let's do it. I want to get into, we talked about like the significance and the journey to get here with Grace by Nia. I want to talk about the restaurant itself. The supper club, right? And let's start with something you said in our conversation a little while ago when you were open a few weeks. This was back in June. We have an episode with Nia on the Common that we had taped, and you described the food at Grace by Nia as something created to encourage moments of family, almost mimicking what happens around the Sunday dinner table. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. You know, being in the restaurants and particularly in the last 3 years, it's been kind of a rushing environment. You know, we want you in and out in 60 to 90 minutes. You know, wear your mask, keep your distance, all those things, right? You remember this pandemic. And so I wanted to return to a familiar space that always gave me comfort. And that is the dinner table. And I think that oftentimes our interactions are so limited. Everyone's got a calendar. I'm pretty sure if you open up your calendar right now, you're like, yeah, and I think the CitySpace event ends at 7:30. So, you know, and so you're on to your next thing, right? And so I wanted to not be, you know, bound by those like restraints anymore. I wanted to, in fact, make a lot of restaurant people mad and sometimes confuse my partners by saying, I want them to stay forever, right? And, we're in the business of turning tables. But at the same time, I wanted to make connections. And I feel like the more we make connections and less focus on turning tables, the more we are really able to build community and family. And I feel like that's what we lost a lot of.
Yeah.
So that's what my goal was to say, forget all those rules, because there's a lot of them, was to kind of return back to when it was just family, when you could have somebody, show up and it's 6 of us, and we know Cousin Lonnie's going to be a little late, but that's what Cousin Lonnie does, right? We still going to be here, and we've got, food for Cousin Lonnie when he shows up.
So what are your most popular dishes so far?
Oh, man. Our most popular dishes are definitely our char-grilled oysters, a nod to our cousins down in New Orleans. You've got your Parmesan and breadcrumbs and butter and garlic and lemon, and it's grilled, right? You know what I mean? And really, happy about our New England style oysters where they're served raw. We did those as well. But the char grills are live. Fried green tomatoes. I love a good caprese salad. And so we took our beet salad. Girl, look at that. That's somebody who knows. There you go. That beet carpaccio is something special, really, again, using familiar ingredients, but really reinterpreting them. So that we can get excited all over again. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that one special dish that grandma threw up on the table on Thanksgiving. And you're like, you didn't make this before. Well, I looked at a recipe, baby. And there it is, right? And so now you're excited about it. And so our fried green tomatoes are layered with mozzarella, and we do a basil oil and a balsamic vinaigrette, and it feels like a deconstructed mozzarella stick when you finally dine and get it into you, right? We're doing a traditional Cajun jambalaya. And so if you've ever been to Darryl's, we do a Creole jambalaya where it is tomato based, but our Cajun jambalaya, less tomato, more spice, bring on the heat, shrimp, chicken, sausage. No, you don't like the heat? Okay, all right. So less of the heat. Do you like carrot cake? Well, listen, we got a carrot cake, chicken, and waffle, right? You know what I mean? Because we wanted to flip carrot cake on its head as well, and flip the chicken waffle. We got that lobster mac. See, we got some fans in the audience, right? I'd rather ask. I told you, it's
Shy,
our
she
interview.
says. I'm shy. Okay.
But it's our interview now. So anybody who's been to Grace, what are some of your favorite dishes at Grace By Nia? Johnny cakes, the oxtail, and the coconut grits. Who's had coconut grits before?
I have not.
See? Oh, not enough people. Not enough people in here.
So I mean, you have some community here.
I'm saying we got some community, and I thank you for coming.
Well, the food is a hit, sounds like, right?
The ribs, St. Louis style ribs, got to do that. Slow smoking and roasting. Go ahead.
You've been open for what, 4 months now? Going on 4 months?
Today is the 11th.
Okay.
And we are open 4 months today.
4 months today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So things seem to be going well. What would you like to get better at?
I want to be better at not trying to always be a perfectionist. That's personal, right?
That's real. Yeah,
because we talk about anxiety and developing a new business, but then it doesn't go away once you're in operation. We don't rest on our laurels, and I'm probably one of the hardest people on myself. And my team, because I'm like, man, somebody said a grain of rice was not right. Change the entire grain of rice recipe, right? Like, that's how I feel about it. But so I want to get better at not necessarily doing that and celebrating more of the wins. But overall, I just want more people to know about it. And I always want to be receptive and responsive to our customer base as much as I can in real time, but almost in real time for us in a restaurant space, at least in a week's time. So if you give me some feedback on anything, I'm here for it. I want to know it. And I'm calling the team probably most immediately. Because, we want to give our best. Our businesses are personal to us. They're very intimate, but we're nothing without our customer base. We're nothing without the people who are village in our community. And so, village, y'all let me know what we could be better at, too. I want to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Let's talk about the music real quick.
Oh, the music.
So how were you approaching the music for Grace by Nia, and like what role do you want it to play in the experience?
Well, music is an equal part of that full experience. So if you're there when we are having live entertainment, you're going to, for me, get the best local, hyper local entertainment. We have so much talent that we could tap into throughout the nation and the world, but we oftentimes overlook people who are sitting next to us or in our backyard. And so our mission from Darryl's to Grace is to always promote our talent that we are locally growing and that we are grooming. And so that's the heart of our entertainment.
How do you pick artists? Like, what do you? Oh, I just like this artist, or is there a certain buzz they have to have, or something? Like, how do you choose your lineups?
Yeah, I mean, it varies, right? We started our programming with a list of at least 100 different bands that work for us currently at Darryl's Corner Bar and Kitchen, right? And so we looked at those and said, well, who's ready for this next elevation? And so anyone familiar with a local music bar legend, I believe, in this city called Wally's, right? So let's give it up for Wally's and that family there who have been operating since 1947. They historically will take talent from Berkeley and give them an opportunity to shed and play and perform and hone their talents 7 days a week, 365 days a year. When people are finished playing at Wally's, they'll say, well, listen, we've kind of got our band together. Can we play at Darryl's? Well, absolutely. Why don't you come on over here and play at Darryl's? And then those bands will often continue to spread their wings and play at different venues. And we looked at our list of those who play for us. And then we say, great, we think that you're ready for this next stage, this next platform, because our thing is to hone your craft, to help you hone your craft, as well as give you some tips on refining it so that you are more than performance ready, because we think that our Grace stage is great, but we think that you belong on a bigger stage than us. And so we're committed to always kind of refining our talent in that way. Mm-hmm. So we had a list that we started with, and then on an active basis, we are looking for talent all the time.
What's the sound?
And when you say
That's
sound,
an audience question, by the way. What is the sound that you want in Grace by Nia?
Yeah, I just want it to be a soothing groove, right? And I don't want to necessarily go into genres, but if we're talking about genres, I mean, I've heard at this point at Grace, I've heard classical, opera, country, and jazz, and R&B, and blues, and I can't even believe what comes out of there. And that's our point. Like, I have a team and we meet every Monday, and we met this morning. And we're always like, all right, great. We did all right last week. How do we do more, right? Because we've got regulars in the room at this point. And how do we even push our talent to push them to the limit as well, right? Because we want to continuously be inspired. And again, we don't want our stage to be the final stage that they're at. We're regularly engaging with music executives, be it from Rock Nation or independents, like even still Motown operating, right? We're engaging with those kind of music executives to sit in the room and hear the talent that we believe is some of the best talent in the city and beyond. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we're always trying to listen for. We're like, oh, that's special. And that's what it is. When you ask, like, what's the sound in the room? Something special. Something like, I can't hear this anywhere else. It's only at Grace. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How'd you get 50?
Well, I called Curtis up. You know what I mean?
Oh, Curtis.
I did not. That was not the truth. I did. But Curtis Jackson, popularly known as 50 Cent, he is a good friend of the Big Night Entertainment Group family. So you can often see him at any of their nightclubs. And he was going to be performing at one of their nightclubs at night and was like, but I want to come to dinner and I need to go somewhere new. And so why wouldn't you come to Grace? And so that's what he did. And so, I mean, to me, that goes back to the conversation of the talent that we are cultivating locally. Mm-hmm. We knew as the execs that 50 was coming. We knew for weeks. But my job was to help my music or my talent for the night usher a spirit that would allow 50 to be like, I want to get on the stage. That's kind of what I was trying to do. And so we worked with the talent. We did let them know that he would be in the room. We kind of devised a way that would make sense of, do your set, but if it makes sense, play a song of his and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
And,
If it makes sense.
if it makes sense, right? And that night we had 22 birthdays in the room. And 50 Cent's got this little song that talks about Shorty, it's your birthday.
You may have heard of it. I don't know.
Why wouldn't we play it, right? And so we did. And 50, bless his heart, in the middle of eating his catfish, put his napkin down after he wiped his face and walked up on the stage and grabbed the mic. And he performed a 6-minute song, and it felt like a 2-hour concert because it was so intimate. It was so special.
Love it.
And the 300 people that we had in the room got to see something that they could only get at Grace.
That's awesome. Any chance we'll see Grace as a setting in Power or something like that? One of the Power episodes.
Listen, 50, if you saying this,
Get you in the Power series or something.
Listen, that's a good idea.
I asked that, but I asked that because the decor,
Absolutely.
it really takes you to a different time.
It does.
Like I said, it feels like Harlem Nights meets Scarface.
It's the Renaissance.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And that's, you're embodying this supper club concept, and it's got this feeling of exclusivity, Tell us about what made you want to take that approach.
Well, I'm kind of a geek a little bit, right? And what I say by that is, if you look up supper clubs and their origination in the Midwest, they started in like Wisconsin area. And it was one of those things that it kind of happened in the Prohibition era as well. And you couldn't drink alcohol, but people wanted to drink alcohol. And you may not have been able to go out and dance, but people wanted to go out and dance and hear this music, right? And so to me, it was also a time where people were so concerted in their effort of enjoying themselves, where it'd be like, listen, we done made a reservation at the supper club. It's been on our books for 30 days, and we need to be out there. So the kids are accounted for, and we're going to be out all night, right? And it was an establishment that you could walk in, have drinks, then dine, listen to entertainment and just be entertained, and then dance by the end of the night. And I was like, and that's what I like. And that's what I love, right? I like a place where it's a one-stop shop, to be fair. And I know that time is so critical even now. So again, I look at the last 3 years, and a lot of us, and people in this room included, have lost so much and so many that every single moment has to matter, right? And it's no longer the day where proprietors and restaurateurs, et cetera, can just kind of take advantage of the fact that, well, you're hungry and we're providing the food and you're just going to do this regardless, right? I wanted to make sure that you were full when you walked out and not just your tummy full. And so for me, it was like, well, how do I continue to expound upon what we already have and make it so that you learned a new song tonight, met a new artist tonight, made some friends tonight. That's a new drink tonight. I didn't realize that there were so many black spirits out in the world. I didn't realize that you could, take a fried green tomato and flip it on its head like this. You know what I mean? And I wanted everyone to be full and, like I said, spend a little time with us. And so for me, it was going back to a time where it was slower, where we appreciated more, where we walked away with more experiences and less moments, because I feel like moments are small, but experiences are long, and you're going to talk about those.
I want to switch gears a little bit and ask you about your work, because it's very clear to me that you are an advocate in addition to being a restaurateur, right? Tell me about where things are with the Black Boston Hospitality Coalition. That's the group you started during the pandemic after the shutdowns and everything were announced. But you started that group to help other Black-owned restaurants in the city. Tell us about the work you've done since then and where things are now.
Personally, I am still an advocate of, right, and a resource to many. And so one of the things that our goal was when the pandemic began, and that's when we started the Boston Black Hospitality Coalition, was that we wouldn't lose the 1% of businesses, restaurants in particular, who had full or who had liquor licenses. So, right, so there were
only 8,
1,500,
right?
and so there were 8. So there were 1,500 licenses in the city of Boston, full and restricted, and only 8 of them were owned by African Americans, and that number it rounds out to less than 1%. And so our first initial goal was, well, we can't lose the 8.
Yeah.
Right? That was real simple. And I'll tell you, we didn't lose the 8. But then our next goal was, well, how do we double this number? You know, how do we make sure that more people are getting the resources or information or the connections that they need, so that this isn't such a statistic that we're all like shaking our head at, and more one that is like, well, at least it's growing and we're contributing to something. And so with that, we've built a lot of, we had some legislation from the state that infused capital into some of the minority. And so it expanded beyond Black, but it went into minorities. So minority businesses or restaurants in particular were able to receive that capital, be it for basics like, I just got to get these utilities paid because it's been a tough 3 years, to I'm interested in a new space and I might just need that down payment. And so we were doing things like that. We were able to provide consultant dollars to again, look at people's books and say, well, this is how you need to move next and what's going to be the most profitable way for you to move forward. Since then, we've been able to see we've been able to double the amount of Black-owned liquor licenses that we see in the city of Boston, right? And so I look at businesses like a Stella and even a Borachito and a Hue and Park 54. Like, I can go on. But it's light work, right? We got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Some would say it's a state of emergency, right?
I mean, it's
To have
still a
so-
state of emergency.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a state of emergency, but at this point, I think that we are stating that we are emerging, right? And so, what my biggest thing is, whenever I get a platform, I'm going to call out 10 other businesses because I believe that somebody else needs to hear about them, right? And I believe that when I make those call outs, a business like Zaz is opening a cocktail bar in the base of my building. And so that's what we got to continue to do.
And continuing that, you're also on the board of directors for Meet Boston, which
Correct.
is basically a tourism organization for the city. And, you know, I'm thinking about all of your work being a restaurateur, the work being an advocate for other Black-owned restaurants, how you approaching that work now, you know? Or matter of fact, even better, I want to know, what kind of Boston are you working towards? Give me, when I'm walking down the street, what should I see in your version of a Boston that is successful?
Well, I mean, I grew up in Roxbury. That's where I was born. And so between the Roxbury and Dorchester neighborhoods, where I spent most of my time, I went to school in the South End, and I worked in Rosendale and Mattapan, and I'm saying all of that because I like to say I'm a super true Bostonian. I got a chance to see it all, and I got a chance to see everybody, and so it blows my mind as an adult. I went away for school and I came back, and it was probably only in the last 10 years that I realized that the city that I love and appreciated was so what'd you say? Small. City is super small, but I didn't realize that we had such stress about culture and race and diversity. I didn't realize that. And so my mother's not in the room, but I credit her for giving me all these different diverse experiences. And so, you know, I don't want to call it naive, right? But I want to say that when I walk through Boston, I'm going to see the me that I see, right? And I'm going to see all the things that I grew up seeing. And if I don't now necessarily see it, right? So when I walk through the Seaport, I love Asian food too, right? But I don't think that I have to go to Chinatown to get some of the best Asian food. And I will tell you, because I'm a statistics person, that we actually only have one Asian restaurant in the Seaport, right? And to me, that's a shame because those are my people, right? And so to me, I want to be able to that advocate on this stage right now. So y'all hear me now, WS, whoever else, let's get some more of those Asian restaurants or businesses within the Seaport as well. And so when I walk through the city, I just want to see the same diversity that cloaked me and helped give me all these experiences that I have. I'm the same person who will fuse Asian and Southern on my menu, right? Or a Latin dish with, again, another Southern dish and mix that up, right? Like I have no problem doing that. And so I want to see that throughout Boston, and I continue to just be in spaces to call out what I don't see. So as my position on Meet Boston, and I sit on a board of 52 people, and there are only 3 Black people on that board and 2 Latin and maybe 1 Asian, I say, well, I guess we all need to talk. Our little subset need to talk and talk about how do we see more representation on this board, because even us, our one lone voice doesn't really help. You know what I mean? Because I represent Roxbury, Dorchester, and a little bit of JP, right? But there are 24 neighborhoods in the city of Boston. And so we need more people, and we need more boards to take those same statistics and say, how do we get 2 or whatever from each, and build a board that is going to be all inclusive like that, and not just talk about it. We got to be about it. So when I sit in those spaces, I always say, great, I see us, but how do I see more of us? And how do I see more of them?
Well, I have a very interesting follow-up from the audience. Well, is it restaurants that will lead the way to diversify the Seaport? But I'm going to expand that to the city. Do you think restaurants are like the first line of, offense in this situation? I don't know, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, restaurants are the carrot, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You dangle that, and people are interested in it. And I think that is the one space, but I say restaurant and music. And so as we continue to build on our music venues, for which we don't have as many as we used to. We have significantly less than we used to. Cambridge is doing well with some of the ones that they have, but it literally takes Cambridge, Boston, and maybe Somerville to say the amount that we used to even just have in Boston, right? And so outside of that, yeah, restaurants can be the carrot, right? Because we all need to eat. Like, who ate today? I didn't. But if y'all did, I'm very happy, right? But for the people who ate today, it's kind of like, and what else do I want to do different? And for me, I look at restaurants as a passport that's local. And I'm able to experience so many different things. And my husband hates me for this. I mean, he loves me, but he kind of hates me for this because, I mean, there's 7 days in a week, and I want to dine out 8 days a week. You know what I mean?
Real.
And it's real. Because I just want to experience more, and I want to be in all these different spaces. And I think that that's probably the most accessible space for us, where you can look around and be like, not why are they here? You know why they're here. I'm here to eat, right? And so now that becomes a space where we've got common ground and we can start talking about it.
So speaking of eating out 8 out of 7 days,
Try to tell you.
where do you like to go?
Oh man.
Other than your own spots, of course.
Man. So where do I like to go? If I'm in Chinatown, I like Waku Waku. I think it has some of the best ramen in the city. I let people know that I enjoy Italian food. I do not go to the North End for it. I stay right in the South End. I go to Mita with Douglas Williams. If I am looking for a late night treat and I enjoy myself some authentic tacos, I go to Maria's Taqueria, which is in the Theater District on Tremont. I think it's some of the best. Liberia tacos are the best. Pro tip, get the ground beef. And then, yeah, I got a couple more spaces, but you really want me to tell you more? Because I got a lot. Like, I love El Oriental, the Cuba.
Listen, this September,
JP.
folks are looking for
I got time,
recommendations.
right? I got time. So, and then if I'm in a couple of new restaurants, nouveau restaurants would be Coquette. It's in the Omni Hotel. I just think that the guys there with the Koji group, they just do some amazing things with food and the full experience. And Coquette has a great menu.
So we're winding down,
Oh,
and I'm curious to know what's next.
oh man.
You mentioned you were looking out of state.
Oh yeah, we are. I think Grace again is 4 months old today, and I feel like by month 6, I will feel comfortable and say that we've done something well. To be fair, I don't feel like I think we are doing some great things. I don't know that we've gotten all the way to that I'm satisfied yet with the well part. But I think that by the time we finish with at least our first 6 months, we are looking at new locations. We are looking beyond state lines. We are getting a lot of interest from guests who are coming to the city. I'll tell you, we got New Yorkers, and I used to live in New York, and I used to be a talent agent. And so, again, one of my jobs was to sit and scout talent and put them on stage. And so SOBs and the New Yorican Cafe, anybody familiar?
Oh, that's for real.
All right. So we're real. So
Yeah,
we're
that's
real.
for real.
And so those two locations, we would put our talent in that space, and then we would also show up and see what was on the stage. You've got the Blue Note as well in New York, right? It's a classic. It's an institution. I've gotten many guests from New York already who are like, we don't have anything like Grace, right? So they want that there. I've got a lot of people from the DC area who are like, and what you gonna do down there? And selfishly, I enjoy 90-degree weather every day of the year. So I want to go to Miami, right? And my dad, he likes to gamble, so maybe Vegas. So anyway, we're looking, and those are areas of interest that people are definitely excited about.
Got it. I'm going to ask this audience question here to close out. Will Nia Grace ever take the stage as a musician?
Well, let me tell you what. Once a year, I take the stage. This year, I took it on my birthday. My birthday is on August 2nd.
Hey, fellow Leo.
Leos. Who Leo's at in the building? All right.
day, every day.
We celebrating our birthday all year. Yep. Happy birthday.
That's right.
Happy birthday.
Be the best.
So, but I have, and it's a passion of mine. It's my ear. I used to play several different instruments, and I used to play the piano by ear as well. So it's something that I'm super passionate about. But if I can't do it as well as the talent that I have on stage, I know my place, and so I bring them together. But once a year on my birthday, you can find me on a stage somewhere.
Nice. Hey, and just in case the talent isn't acting right,
Exactly.
you can get up there and take over if you need to.
Yep.
Well, Nia, thank you so very much for taking the time to come and talk with us. I mean, we could do this all day. Felt like a breeze. Shy, I don't believe it. And I don't believe none of it, but I'll fine if you say so. But thank you so very much. And we're also going to try some food. Am I correct?
Thank you. Yeah, we are. Today I made some, and I cook as well a little bit. And so today I wanted to share some gumbo greens with you. And so anyone had gumbo before, right? So I've got a gift for anybody who knows where gumbo, in fact, has originated. Where did gumbo originate? Who said New Orleans? All the people who said New Orleans, all right? I love you, Caroline. I see you in the room. That's my God. Let's say that. But gumbo didn't originate there. All right, there you go. Exactly, there you go. So I'm gonna give you a gift card that you are, right? So that's for you. All right. Oh my goodness. All right.
Love a giveaway.
So, Ngumbo means okra in West African Bantu language. And so I wanted to share gumbo with you. And so for me, growing up, and I think a lot of households, we often saw one-pot dishes as a way to fill us up, right? When we didn't necessarily have a whole lot of things in the cabinet to fill up, right? And so the gumbo dish that I brought today, I wanted to make sure that everyone could enjoy it in the room. So it is gluten-free and it's vegan friendly. So for everyone in the room for that, but it definitely has the Southern Trinity of seasoning and vegetables, right? And so I've got another gift card for anybody in the room who can tell me what the Southern Trinity is, and I won't let you call it out. All right. I saw this person here in front of me first. Can you tell me your name first? Susan, what is the Southern Trinity?
Vacation grandma. So, Southern Trinity is onion and green pepper and celery.
Oh, look at you. Look at that. Susan. All right. Here you go. Thank you. And so those are gift cards to Darryl's. We do serve a traditional gumbo there with chicken and sausage and shrimp in it, and as well as rice. But the gumbo I'm serving today are gumbo garden greens. I have collard greens, okra as our thickener, filet powder, which is ground sassafras. The gumbo, in fact, again, originated in West Africa, and they brought the okra to the States. And when they got into the Louisiana region, they then started to use the thickener of filet powder, which is sassafras that's ground up, and that's of Native American tradition. And then sometimes, they started to use another thickener from a European tradition, which is the roux. And I did not use roux in this one, which is a flour and a butter blend, because again, I want it to be friendly to everyone in the house. But it's got carrots and diced tomatoes and the celery and the bell peppers, yellow onion. I've added some black eyed peas because you need a little black eyed peas. And then onions and garlic and stuff. So I really do hope you enjoy it. And I brought cornbread too. So who doesn't like cornbread?
My prayers have been answered. I was looking for some cornbread. I was like,
Well, there
"God,
you
hope
go.
there's some
There you go.
cornbread." Please give it up for Nia Grace and Grace by Nia.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you to our moderator this evening, Darryl C. Murphy, and Nia Grace, everyone.